I was asked to talk about innovation, and innovation in particular in our world. We are in the world of training business leaders. Our faculty produce ideas that are going to change the business practice and hopefully public policy in the social sector too. So this is a really big topic. And what I wanted to do, and then try to finish up in plenty of time to have a conversation with you, is first set the stage for thinking about innovation, then talk a little bit about how to innovate in business school, and then a little bit about what we're doing in my own school, as maybe some examples, and then talk about some opportunities that I see ahead. Now, I know there's a panel that John Byrne will be leading right after this. He is clearly the smartest person on this subject, so I just hope I get about half of it right about where we're headed, and the panel can correct me if I'm wrong. Now, let me talk about two things about innovation. And what I'm about to say for business schools is happening in the public's mind thinking about the November election. The first is that innovation is an exciting subject. That's the good news. And change can be a lot of fun. So as an economist, my work has studied growth starts and growth stops, and institutions that support what I would call entrepreneurial alertness and ability to innovate. What's very interesting, of course, for an economy is that innovation is very important. In my school, we're 100 years old this year, so I've been spending a lot of time literally going around the world showing the flag, and this topic is very much in my mind, as I think just in my own school, and each of you will have similar stories. I think of value investing and modern consumer behavior, risk management. These are areas in which my school has played a big role over the past 100 years. One of the things I say, though, on that centennial trail is that I part company with many people in my profession, economists, who point to things called secular stagnation, that the opportunities for growth and innovation are much worse going forward than they have been in the past. And I won't bore you with my economic arguments as to why I disagree, but I will give you a simple example I give to MBA students. I've been dean a little over a decade, and when I welcomed the new class, I listed for them storied businesses in their eyes that were glimmers or not even when I started the job. And why do we not think that 10 years from now, whoever's in my chair or yours at our various schools, why wouldn't they be able to say the same thing? So I simply believe that. And so the good news about innovation is that it's an opportunity for us. But there's something else about innovation. It's scary. A lot of what is happening in economic policy discussions going into the election in our country is the sense that while there is enormous opportunity for innovation, it's also scary for many people. And frankly, not everybody's going to win from an innovation. Some people will be much better off, some a little better off, and some not well off at all. So I want to talk about, in this context of opportunity and being a little scared, the most important industry in the world, ours. Okay? I want to talk about business education. I want to think about our industry, and I want to look at it in the way, if you'll forgive me, an economist would. How do we think about an industry? What are the forces and what's going to happen? And just to give you an example, in case you want to check your email or something while I'm talking, I'm going to wind up feeling pretty positive, but somebody out front had asked me what the elevator pitch version of my talk was, and I said when my children were little, they had a book called Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, so there's a little bit of that too, but we'll come to that. So now let's get to work. Business schools have always, I think, occupied a really nice position in universities. People think of universities as very hidebound places that don't change. We know that's not true in business schools. And frankly, it never was. Just a quick history lesson. So if you go back to the founding of business schools, I said mine is 100 years old. There's some older, some a little less old. But in the early days, business schools were largely trade schools. In the 1950s, the Ford and Carnegie reports wanted to make business schools look like people like me. So applied math types, engineering types, economists start flowing into business schools, a very social science heavy curriculum. And as you know, the pendulum's now swung back to trying to capture a little bit of both. How do we innovate to capture the practical world? That's why we came into existence in the first place. But with the rigor that we bring from the disciplines that our faculty have. Now, I don't think innovation is a luxury. I think it's actually a necessity. And you can think of several reasons. I just listed a few of them here. The first is about the value of the MBA. So I'm one of the people, you all are too, where a young person will come up to you and say, should I get an MBA? And as an economist, the way I translate that is, should I pay 2 years of Columbia Business School's tuition, and even larger, the opportunity cost on my time for that period, is that a high, either monetary and or social return on my investment? That's the way I think about it. You all know from the numbers that calculation, certainly for many schools, is getting more challenging. Tuition has risen faster in many cases than the salaries that our students get. So the value of the MBA is causing a lot of places to question what they're doing. And I know what we've been thinking about Columbia, and I'll say a little more, is how to really enrich that value proposition. And one way to compete is on price. That's not the way I want to do it. And so the question is, how do we make sure the value's there? The second gets to the question of what's an MBA. Well, one threat, remember I said opportunity cost is the biggest number, so one threat to a traditional 2-year MBA experience would be the notion that a 1-year MBA is a perfect substitute. Because after all, if a 1-year MBA is a perfect substitute for a 2-year MBA, why would you do a 2-year MBA? It's more expensive. You have to be an economist to figure that out. I don't think that's true. But it is the case that at least those of us in the 2-year MBA business have to articulate, and I'll say a little bit about that as I go, what do we think the mix of things really should be in a 2-year program? We're all going to differ around the edges of what we do, of course, but how do we marry teaching basic skills in functional areas of business with things that help people integrate? The third and fourth are related, just the whole disruption from technology in what we're doing in the MBA program. We have, for a fairly significant number of years at Columbia, been using online in our executive ed programs. They're a way for us to reach out to our exec ed clients in between times. We see them at Columbia. It's a way for us to reach larger audiences. We are now trying to disrupt ourselves a little bit in the MBA program in ways that I mentioned. And one threat that we all have is the idea that online learning could be a substitute, some would even say a perfect substitute, at least a substitute, for the face-to-face program. Since online learning can be delivered at a smaller cost than the traditional face-to-face, it's incumbent upon us, if we're in the face-to-face business, to say what the value is. So a lot of change ahead there, partly because we all like talking about change, but partly because we have to. What I'm going to argue with you this afternoon is that actually this is an opportunity, because it gets us to step back to first principles as to why people were coming to business school in the first place. I suspect that when each of our students show up at our doors, they were thinking about 3 things, and hopefully we're delivering. One is ideas. So do the men and women with whom they're working on the faculty have ideas that are important in their disciplines, but are also changing the practice of business? I'd want to go to such a business school if I were a 28-year-old applicant. The second is talent, which is a code word for the students themselves, the men and women to the right or left of you in a classroom. Are they people from whom you're going to learn? In any really good business school, you're going to learn almost as much from the students as you are from the faculty. And then the third is the network. So ideas, talent, and third, network of business practitioners around the school. The opportunity for us as an industry is to try to get at some of these challenges by going back to first principles. That's why students come to us. And so the question is, can we deliver that experience that integrates what we do well in the university with what happens in the practical world around all of our schools. If we do, I'll at least submit to you this afternoon, we'll be fine. So how do you do that? I started First Principles, and perhaps it's because I'm a faculty member from Central Casting, but I would start with faculty. Faculty are the core strength of any part of a university. You are no better or worse than the people you have in the trenches doing research and teaching students. I think there's a lot we can do with faculty to help them take research into the integrated message. So for example, we have a course, the first course students take in our core curriculum is called LEAD. It's an acronym, it's obviously about leadership. And it's motivated by social science research from our own faculty in social intelligence. We can't, train everybody to be exactly like a leader that might pop into your eye, but we can use tools from social science to help. We do that in our teaching of investments. We take faculty research at the core of everything from factor analysis to value investing and work it into the way we teach. So one way to get faculty excited about this is to say, there is a differentiated product here, and it's based on you and your research. The second thing, going up clockwise, is alumni. I know that sometimes when we say alumni, we think development, which is just the code word for asking someone for a check. I've got an event tonight where I'll be doing just that. But that's not what I mean. What I mean is if you're trying to do this experience where you're bringing practice and theory together, your alumni, our alumni, are on the front lines of doing exactly that. And so when you're talking about writing cases to use in class, guest speakers, team teaching, alumni networks are again part of differentiation. Each school represented in this room has a special group of men and women who are alumni, many of whom, most of whom we're extremely proud of, use it, just like the faculty. Going around, another point to leverage our strengths is the university. Now, just like with alumni, people think development. If you're a business school dean, and I say the word university, what do you think? Somebody give me a Rorschach. What's the first word? Provost is a symptom. Taxes. Taxes. I heard somebody say that. I heard about taxes. So we think of the university. We are a free cash flow successful part of the university. Other parts of universities typically are users of cash rather than generators of cash. But that's not what I want to talk about. Although it is a beef of mine, probably all of yours. Here's what I want to talk about. Every time I welcome a group of students to Columbia Business School, I say, look, come to a great business, but you're in a great university. So don't sit here 2 years and tell me you were interested in tech, and the engineering building is right behind us, and you never went over. Or you tell me you're interested in biotech, and the scientist who's at the cutting edge of what you're talking about is at our medical center. And these sorts of examples, what we have tried to do is get team teaching from faculty across the university. So I came from the Faculty of Arts and Sciences to the business school, and I've not been shy about trying to draw in psychologists, sociologists, engineers, people from our law school faculty, medical school faculty to do this. Our universities are points of differentiation. Each one of us has areas of our university that are incredibly strong, and it can complement what we do in the business school. So just like we leverage our faculty and we leverage our alumni, we can think about our university as more than just a place to pay taxes. Global. We all have being global as part of our mantra. I think there are a couple of ways to differentiate ourselves and to innovate, and I would put them in just simplest possible terms as inhaling and exhaling. So by inhaling, when I think about what we do with globalization with our MBA students, part of it is inhaling. So we will have faculty around the world writing cases and doing projects that we bring back to Morningside Heights and teach in our classrooms. So that is a way of collecting the world. Our alumni are very helpful in that. We often, I know when I teach, I will often have a speaker somewhere else in the world who's just there on video with me discussing a case or a business. So global is very important. The second is exhale. So we take our faculty and our students and send them out there. For the faculty, it's a matter of doing research in other places. For students, I'll give you some examples in a moment, is particular kinds of study trips that are differentiating from us, not because we at Columbia own that country, but because we're delivering an experience from our alumni and our connections that make it interesting to do. And then the final is location. Each of us has something special about their location. I feel incredibly blessed because I'm in New York, so for me it's like shooting fish in a barrel. For each and every person in this room, there's something special about the location that we can tap into business talent. So as I think about all of this array about how to innovate, it's about leveraging strengths. And the good news is each person in this room represents a school that has strengths in every one of these areas. Our strengths are just different, but these are the boxes I would submit to you that we need to be thinking about. So let me give you an example from us. We're in New York. So we have for years been running a lot of global immersion seminars where that would mean a faculty member, myself, would take a group of students to a place. We would do some classes that are more conventional, academic-based, and then we would have meetings with local business leaders. And so when our faculty was doing the last strategic review, we said to ourselves, well, if we're willing to do that in Mumbai or Beijing or London, why aren't we doing it in New York, which is the center of much of global business? So what we did was ask our faculty, okay, brainstorm. Based on your research and based on our ability to connect you with alumni, what would you suggest? This is the list of classes that we came up with at the beginning. For example, in activist investing, my colleague Wei Zhang, who's a finance professor, worked with Bill Ackman, who's a prominent activist investor, and there was a tension there. We also brought in defense counsel for people who hate activist investors, and the students saw the theory from Wei's own work, but they also got to see how an activist thinks and how corporate types think. Same in luxury brands. We had an alum who had 1 million connections at the top of the luxury goods industry. So we talked a lot about marketing of luxury goods in the academic setting, but then we go company to company, and in each of these boxes, we were able to focus on a strategy that the leader himself or herself was executing right now and get our students to help out. So these kinds of things, you'll all have immersion opportunities like we do. We came to this probably later than we should. Our tagline is from the very center of business. So we decided, if that's what we're going to say, why don't we do it? One way that we did it, just to add a practical note, when we first decided that we wanted to do these kinds of classes, as you all know, it's easy to say things like bring theory and practice close together. Because what often happens is theory and practice, not bridging theory and practice. So I looked for somebody who could help me, I don't know what the right word is, a translator. So I found a guy at Morgan Stanley whose parents had been professors. He thought about being a professor. He was clearly a nerd like me. He didn't look like he belonged to Morgan Stanley. And so we hired him, and Khalid Azim is his name, and Khalid has been working with me to make these matches. So we have a whole series of classes where Khalid has been the bridge maker. So as you're thinking about these kinds of leveraging, it's probably the case that faculty need a little bit of help. So faculty member might say, here's the example I want to do, but the faculty member may not really have an idea which practitioner could come in and help him or her do it, and a translator can be very, very useful there. Another example for us has to do with cases. So we don't have a religious point of view at Columbia about how faculty teach. Each person can teach a class however he or she wants. My personal preference, and it's only personal, I was clear to tell faculty, I'm not telling them what to do, as if I could anyway. My personal preference is to use cases. And I have a simple reason. One of the things recruiters tell me they want to see more of from our students and really from business school students generally is the ability to make decisions. That they view students as incredibly analytical. But at the end of the day, you have to call it. Invest or not invest is a series of discrete choices, and you won't have all the information. I think cases are good at that. The problem I had with cases as a teacher, I'm a finance professor in school, so I'm an economist by training, that many of the cases that we had access to weren't really analytical enough for the way I personally wanted to tackle. So to me, case is not a code word for non-analytical. It just means it's a real business problem. So we decided to create our own. So we formed an institute called CaseWorks that a donor had been generous to help us do. And senior faculty lead the effort, and we set at the time as an ambitious goal, which we've long passed, that half of the cases that our students would see in the Columbia core would come from Columbia. And the idea there was twofold. One was analytics. We wanted a richer set of cases than some of the competition was giving us. And frankly, I wanted to see Columbia people in cases. I thought it was a branding opportunity. If we're going to talk about a deal or a transaction, why not feature one of my own? I can make a teaching point about whether the price in an M&A deal is too high or too low. So why not find it with my alum? So CaseWorks has been another way we've tried to use our network, if you will, to our own advantage. And faculty have really bought into this. About 70% of the cases we use in our MBA program are cases that we have written at Columbia. Another area in which innovation has become really important, and you all know this, is in career management. So when I think back to, in academic time, it's a nanosecond, the length of time I've been the dean. It's a long number of years in the real world. Universities move slowly. But even in that period of time, career management's changed a lot. So I know when some older alums talk to me about career management, they imagine a world in which a handful of large recruiters comes in and swallows my students. And that's true for some. McKinsey hires approximately a cluster of my MBA students a year. God bless them. And other large recruiters do that, and I think that's terrific. But that's not how recruiting happens at the margin, and increasingly in student interest. So about a third of our students go through what the career management folks would call enterprise recruiting, which is just a buzzword for the non-McKinsey type recruiting, and really good jobs, but at firms that want to hire 1 or 2 or 3 people, not 65. And that is a different world, because the way you approach managing that process is very different than working with McKinsey or Bain or Goldman Sachs for recruiting. Increasingly, 2 other features of our world. One is international students. More than 40% of our students are not from the United States. Some of them would like to work in the United States, others not. And so managing a global career network for them is a challenge. And then our executive MBA program. We have a big footprint in the executive MBA program. I'm a big believer in it. And that world's changed a lot. When I started as dean, executive MBA was a code word for company sponsor. I heard that in the answer at lunch. That's not what it is. Right? There are about a third of my IMBA students are in that boat. If you mean the company's paying the full freight, most of them are not. We changed a lot. So we've had to change, whether it's the MBA program, the way we approach enterprise recruiting, and increasingly startup recruiting. A lot of our students want to be in young companies, not necessarily that they have their own idea, but they want to be the number 3 or 4 guy or gal in something really, really exciting. So how do we do it? We've used a code word internally of an ACE system, where we use advisors, that's the A, coaches and career fellows and executives in residence. So we use advisors are people who come from our faculty community, our alumni community, who can help orient students toward an area of interest to them. This is something where our network turns out to be critically important. We also use a number of full-time advisors we'll hire in particular areas in career management. The coaches are our and some of our peer schools' alumni. Some of these are volunteers. Some we pay on a part-time basis to work with our students. And we do these in industry verticals where somebody is specializing in the firms and industries in which only a handful of jobs come up at a time, so it's not the same kind of block recruiting that the giant consulting firms do. And then we have a career fellow program where we take some of our second-year students who already have done well in the job market, with a lot of expertise in an area, to work with their own colleagues. So the A advisors are helping with literal expertise, the coaches with experience. The execs in residence, and I'll say more about it in a minute, are a particular secret weapon for us. So these are retired, typically senior executives. Sometimes it might be somebody who left a CEO job at a fairly early age, and before he or she gets their next gig, they would like to help us at university, for which we are grateful. So these men and women, we group by industry, and they're there to provide a sense of perspective. So take an example that's close to my own area of business interest in private equity. It's hard sometimes for students to get into private equity from business. And so one thing our advisors do is say, okay, but let's think about the path that gets you from your finance background ultimately into private equity. That kind of perspective that rounds out the ACE approach is super useful for us. So I want to give you some more examples on that. What we try to do in our execs in residence program is look at every vertical that we think is important for our students in the job market, and then try to find a senior executive who may have some time to contribute. And this isn't super easy to do. As you know, in dealing with business people, sometimes a person is a great business person, but not so great in dealing with students. So it's really a chemistry matter of finding him or her, but they're out there. Again, at least for us in New York, it turns out to be not so hard. I recruited Barry Salzberg, who was the CEO of Deloitte, who stepped down from Deloitte last year, to come in and run this program for us. We have a series of great leaders, Wade, who have been one of the co-heads of McKinsey, who have been there before that. So Barry has helped find people in each of these verticals. So to give you an example, in real estate, a lady named Leanne Lockman is our person, and I literally watched her sit in a room full of real estate executives and say, okay, I got 21 students and I'm not leaving the room until they're placed. I want to see their hands. And I thought, that's what I'm looking for. And I don't even pay Leanne, so that's great. So execs in residence, I think, are something that each of us, we all have networks of business people around us who have connections. Why not use them? Now, earlier I had mentioned the university as more than just a place to think about paying taxes, and I mean that. And one of the things to do, of course, is if it's to succeed, all trade has to generate gains on both sides. And so try to think of areas where in the business school we would win if we drew in parts of the university, but by the way, so would they. These are a few of the examples that we have focused on at Columbia, say a little bit about them. In entrepreneurship, it's an area which I teach actually in school. I teach a class called Entrepreneurial Finance in the MBA program. I was worried that the most interesting entrepreneurial ideas I saw at Columbia, which there were many, were actually not from my students. There are occasionally an MBA student who has a great whiz-bang business idea. Actually doesn't happen that often. I mean, typically when people study the transition from MBA to entrepreneurship, I think Stanford's probably done the best job of these studies. It's about 10 years after your MBA before that happens. But there's a ton of interesting ideas on Columbia's campus. A lot of it comes in tech and engineering. A lot of it comes uptown at our medical school. And I wanted for ways for our students and our faculty to plug in. The rest of the university was also interested because, as you know, the way university finances work in this thing, if I'm scientist X and I invent this medical device, well, Columbia University owns a piece of that too. So they're psyched for me to do this. So what do? We formed a program called IGBE, for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Columbia, where we take our faculty, myself included, to mentor faculty around the university in a competitive process. So the first year we did this, we had about 100 faculty around the university, generally from engineering and medicine, but also journalism, Columbia College, other places, that would apply to the business idea. we use outside venture capital alumni to help us screen that, to get it down to a small number, it's a dozen. And that dozen would work with our faculty on Fridays, and we would introduce them to our venture capital network. So IE was a way for us in the business school to connect our MBA students to these really exciting ventures, to make some of our alumni happy, because they got to see a lot of interesting IP on Columbia campus. The medical center is very happy. We actually teach a class up there called From Research to Revenue that helps medical folks think about commercial applications. So everybody wins at this, and some really fascinating businesses have come out of it. So this is we wouldn't have been able to do this but for the cross-campus collaboration. We've also done this in entrepreneurship with a startup lab, where we have basically taken a floor of a WeWork facility downtown. It's our students, but also students from engineering, medicine, and other places. They cohabited, if you know how WeWork works, and that's produced a lot of good stuff. We have a social enterprise program, our Tamer Center, that funds social enterprise ideas throughout Columbia University, not just Columbia Business. So the idea is to get our students working with others. Our thesis in the Tamer Center is not as much on not-for-profit businesses, but on real businesses, for-profit businesses, that are solving social problems. And there are lots of good ideas in the university on that. And then many other joint ventures. We have a law school, we have a joint center that runs our joint JD MBA program, but also produces a lot of very, very interesting work as well. So much to do in the university. The student experience is also important. You can't deliver this networked experience product if you don't have the right organizational culture that delivers students to go with it. This is not going to work. And so we do this in 3 steps. We start out on the admissions side. We have a fairly high-touch admissions program. We work really closely with prospective applicants. We have rolling admissions, so we turn around decisions relatively quickly, and we have lots of interaction all over the world with those students, constantly doing either admission events or research center or faculty events where we can invite them. So for example, whenever I travel somewhere in the world, I always want to see any prospective student so that I can talk about the school. We have faculty doing that all the time. It doesn't cost us any extra. Professor X is going to be there anyway. We just do it. The second piece of the way we do it is what's called a peer advising system. One of the things I realized when I became dean is that I really needed shock troops. So there's one of me and a few staff colleagues who were working with me and getting the first year of class in, and of course my colleagues on the faculty. But what if we could, my generation's only lived 2 years at a time, like yours, what if we could just bridge that elegantly with students? So we came up with the idea of a peer advisor program where second-year students handle the bulk of the acculturation in orientation, train them to do it. We actually give them extra leadership training, which makes it attractive for them. We don't pay them, they volunteer for this. In fact, it's a competitive process. The peer advising works well for us. And then the way we group students helps in that as well. We use, like many of you, forms of cluster systems. So we'll take the core curriculum with the same 70-ish men and women who are in your class, and then each of those groups is subdivided, call it in 5s, by learning team. And a learning team will deliberately mix a math guy like myself with somebody who's actually creative, and throw them all together, and hopefully they learn from each other. So as we go into this more experiential learning, we start out by saying, can we build a student who's looking for that? And this is how we try to do it. So bottom line, I actually think that we should be optimistic about our industry, despite the hand-wringing that it's going away. And I say that for a couple of reasons. Good news or bad news, depending on where you sit. There are a lot of big problems in the world to solve. Now, why am I arrogant enough to think we have a role in solving those problems? What I say in the university, and I really believe this, is that many big problems people articulate are in fact management problems. By which I mean, we know what to do. The question is doing it, and that's what we're good at. We tend to be good at strategy and operations and execution. And I listed some things up here, but just to give you examples, one that I'm going to give tonight, since I'm speaking to a group of social enterprise alumni, if you went back historically, 10, 15 years ago, the engineers who were working on hydraulic fracture, if those engineers had been connected at the time to economists, political scientists, and others, imagine the conversation. If I could tell you I had perfect foresight, that I'm going to, with technology, lower the marginal extraction costs of some reserves that have been uneconomic, what would that do to equilibrium prices, investment, national security? Now that happened, and we know it was a big effect. 25 years from now, I expect we're going to be talking all the more about serious decarbonization. I see it in public policies. I'm not making a normative judgment. I'm talking about the world that I see. If that is true, what are the implications for us across industries, sectors, the kinds of people we train, and so on? We in business schools have these conversations for two reasons. One, we tend to be places where people from different disciplines aren't afraid to talk to one another. When I came from the economics department, we only saw psychologists at university budget meetings, and that was always unpleasant. So we tend to be places where that happens. And we tend to be places where all of us in the academy are willing, and in fact eager, hopefully, to talk to practitioners. So I think this idea of big problems is something that we are uniquely able to do. And so I think we're going to have fun at this if we go back to first principles. Think about that 28-year-old who wants to come to your school, and he or she is thinking about three simple things: ideas, talent, network, and what stitches it together. Each and every one of us has our own distinctive way of doing that. It's a competitive world. We, in some sense, all compete with one another, but we also have a common mission of getting it right for those 28-year-old men and women and the business people we hire. So yes, a lot going on. Yes, innovation can be scary, but I actually think for most of us, it's going to be an opportunity. So let me stop there. I'd love to talk about anything that's on your mind before I get the keynote.
Innovative also.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Questions, sir?
I don't know. I missed what you said about the one-year MBA issue.
I'm saying that a threat to a two-year MBA would be the view that a one-year MBA is a perfect or at least close substitute. Because after all, I have two goods and one sells for half the price. Why not take that one? I don't think that's true. And what I say is, not that they don't sell for half the price, but they're the same product, is the truth. And I think if you think about what you do in business school, in a year, you can do basic skills. That is, I can teach people economics, finance, accounting, operations, whatever. I could teach instead a whole bunch of integrated courses, but I can't really do both. We've tried to come close, and we have a program where you can start in January if you don't need an internship and go straight through, so it's not much over a year, but it's the same number of courses as our students take who started in September. So I'm out there definitely of the view that the two-year MBA is what an MBA is.
So what about 1 year and a half, or 1 year and 2/3 MBAs? But I hear discussions.
Well, I mean, everybody will innovate. I think it takes about, if I look at our students, I don't hear them generally saying, I wish I could have gotten out a little earlier. If anything, they're saying to me, I wish I could have taken at the margins 2 more things than I did. So I think if we're doing it right, 2 years is about right. I mean, it's not on the tablets from God. I can't tell you that 1.9 or 2.2 would be better, but I think 2 seems like a very good place to start. But I think as an industry, we still have a lot of work to do. That's a very expensive product. Because if you add the cost of tuition, and as I said, the larger number, which is the opportunity cost of these talented people's time, that's very expensive. And so the reality check for us, and I say this to my faculty colleagues all the time, we have to be able to look in the mirror and believe that when we say that's a good value, it is. I believe that for my school, but it's something I always have to remind us. Yeah.
So, I like the idea of solving big problems into what we do in business school. And I think the students who we see now like it even more.
Oh yeah.
High achieving millennials, they're all about purpose,
Yep.
solving big problems. But as you think about bringing this into, or integrating into how you actually deliver the program, can you talk a little bit about pushback that you either have gotten or will expect to get from faculty who see a risk in moving away from classic functional teaching to?
Oh, I never get pushback from faculty. Not true. Faculty are the most conservative audience for what I'm saying here. And I say that in a healthy sense. I think one reason universities are so amazingly resilient is because it would be hard for anybody in my chair to really screw things up, because I have so many checks and balances, fortunately, from my colleagues. But I'll give you an example. I won't name the faculty member, but one of my very best colleagues, an extraordinary researcher, extraordinary teacher. And I asked him to make changes in the core MBA statistics class to fit with a more integrated approach. We were using some integrated cases that tied across several classes. And the faculty member said, why should I? I'm getting 5.0 with a 5-point scale, 5.0 teaching ratings. You've given me every teaching rating. And I said to the faculty member, X, if I were selling a product called an MS in statistics, you'd have a cogent argument. But I'm selling something called an MBA. Or we like designing a car and saying, I care only about the steering wheel. It all has to work together. So I think once you get to that and you give faculty resources, they're willing to do it. We do some of this offline, so it's not in class. I'll give you an example. I have a colleague, Ray Horton, who teaches a class called Modern Political Economy in our MBA program. Ray and I are doing a seminar on populism for our students. They're worried about this. They saw Brexit, they see the US elections. So we can go offline. I'm not talking about individuals, we're talking about what is populism, where does it come from, and if you're going to be a business leader, how do you deal with it? We're not there to tell you how to vote, but we are there to say, okay, you got to come to grips with this, don't just live in the bubble. So I think there are ways in class and out of class. But yes, you do have to make sure colleagues are on board. The good news about what we've done is that they've bubbled up from the faculty. So each time these innovations I've talked about, it's not that I send a memo, it's we've had faculty strategy committees that come up with these ideas. So already you have a group of respected faculty who are bought in day one, and then hopefully their colleagues join them. With faculty, you're never going to get 100%, but you hope you'll get many of your colleagues.
You
Yeah.
mentioned that for your casework,
Yep.
you had a large number of faculty participate.
Yep.
Are these academic faculty or faculty with industry experience?
No, I think the questions about caseworks, there are a lot of academic faculty participating. They're all academic faculty. What we have is professional case writers. So basically, if I wanted to do a case on a particular investment that I had seen for my class, I can sketch the situation, get the material, design a teaching point that I want to make in that case, and then we have professional writers who will do the case and get it back to me and say, did we capture what you were trying to do? So for the actual faculty member, it's not as much work as it sounds. And then once a faculty member has it, he or she has a little more street cred than with the students because they're bringing those applications to class. But without the case writers, I don't think we would have been able to pull it off because the work per faculty member would have been too hard. And unlike some schools, we don't have case writing as part of our way of evaluating faculty. That's not how we do it. So we needed the full-time case writers. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier the importance of bringing the research into the learning experience of the students. I wonder if you found ways to measure how much that happens, to encourage it, to make it part of evaluation. How do you manage that?
It's a great question. One way we do it are in brown bag seminars. So we started a program in our program on financial studies called the No Free Lunch series, where we brought students together with a faculty member to talk about research. We also have a scheme called Fake CBS, where we'll have a faculty member deliver sort of an elevator pitch of what he or she is working on, and we track attendance, obviously, at these things, and it's actually pretty good. Students want to know what we all do. And when I said to faculty, it actually helps them, because when students think about research, which is sort of why I became a faculty member, I assume that's true for most of my colleagues, they think of it as the enemy of teaching. That somehow if I'm in my office doing research, I must not be caring about them. I don't see it that way. The best teachers I've had cared about ideas. And so I think the way to bridge that is show students, okay, look, when Professor X is sitting in there, here's what he or she's working on. You don't give a technical presentation like you would a seminar, but you can talk about your work in a way that students say, okay, he or she's doing interesting stuff. And I'm sure there are 100 other permutations of this around the room. But for us, we found that this Think CBS and the No Free Lunch seminar, we also have what we call case briefs that students will, the faculty use in class. It's not a case situation, but an example that translates research into an application as a, distributed in a course pack for the class. Yeah.
I think you write case by your own school have two advantages. Number one, if you get a case from Harvard, it's out of date. Secondly, your faculty become more realistic. I have more than 20 PhD students teach in Asia, including Taiwan, Hong Kong, China. They go to Harvard to learn how to teach. They get sick about that. Then say, look, I pay so much money, come here, so learn how to act. Please teach me how to write case. Maybe we should do that also, Yeah, right, you see, when you get Harvard case, it's 3 years out of date, And your name has been diluted by Harvard also.
Well, in some cases they're not out of date. I mean, some of the oldest cases at HBS are used for a reason. They're actually wonderful teaching moments. I use some of those cases, not because I'm too lazy to find a new one, but I actually think they're great. The reason we wanted to do it was, again, some of the approaches people were taking at HBS and some other schools that write these cases were just less analytical than I wanted to teach, or my faculty wanted to teach. And it's not denigrating them, it's a style difference, but I wanted to be who I was. And I did put a heavy weight on wanting the Columbia brand. It was my first year as dean where I thought I had done a terrific job at orientation. I roused the crowd, they were excited. And in the very first case that they saw had Harvard Business School's name on it, right after I had just gotten through telling them about the fact that we're the center of the universe. And so, I realized I got to pivot.
Yeah.
And so we started in some concentric circles. We started in orientation. In those cases, were Yale and Columbia first, then the core, then all.
So you hire some person help faculty write, right? Is that what you
We have professional writers and a staff of them that work with our
I'm
faculty.
a professional, all right. Okay.
And then the head of caseworks is always a senior faculty member
Yeah, good idea.
who works with the person who's running, it's actually a faculty member named Joel Rockner, one of my management colleagues, will visit with each core course head and say, okay, what teaching points would you like to make that you're not making in a case? And then come back to external relations and we'll see if we can find a business case or an alum that fits that bill. So we try to make the match. It's too much to ask faculty to make that match, and the faculty wouldn't necessarily know who the alumni are in that area. We do as a school, so that's where the staff, this is an area where staff-faculty partnerships are particularly good. And faculty actually like it, because it's less work for them.
Let's take one more question.
Okay, one more question.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So my question has a little bit to do with alumni, because you keep, we've heard for a couple of days tapping into alumni.
Yep.
I teach here, I'm an adjunct, and I mainly teach, can you hear me? Yeah, all right. I mainly teach MBA students who are in the Flex MBA program.
Yep.
As opposed to the full-time, which are cohorts. And we tap into alumni for presentations and engagement. But I find with the Flex MBA students, they're not as fully engaged in the brand of, in my case, Rutgers University. I don't know about Columbia, NYU, or some of the others. But I think there is an important ingredient here in terms of alumni relations and tapping into that, especially in the programs that you indicated. So could you sort of address how you cultivate these alumni?
Sure, I spend about a third of my time with alumni, and part of that is a classic development function, just asking people for money. But that's actually not most of it. Most of it really is trying to develop relationships for somebody you want to be in our classroom, hiring our students, particularly the executive MBA program, where our students are older than the full-time program. So I think there's a lot that alumni can do, and frankly, alumni like to be asked to do these things. I also think about it online. Sorry, I wasn't here in the online discussion, but I've said to my colleagues that you have to think about alumni and online. Here's the reason. I teach finance. What's the difference between a basic finance course online taught at Columbia or any of our peers? I mean, finance is finance. Last time I checked, the Divinity Learning Firm didn't have one identity, the other one somewhere else. But we do have something our peers don't, and they likewise have something we don't, which is alumni. So, for example, imagine in investments, if I taught it with Mario Gabel, who's a rock star investor, or imagine that I brought in my CEOs. I'll tell you who's ahead of us in this, and again, maybe this came up, forgive me if it did, is McKinsey Academy. When I went through Ideas Talent Network, doesn't McKinsey have all three of those things? And if you ever look at McKinsey Academy, you'll see a partner, which would be the analog to one of our tenured colleagues, working with CEOs, and the analogy are alumni. So the future's here. And I just think we have this, and we should grab it and go with it. And maybe you all talked about this earlier, but I think that's a big, big deal in online too. I think alumni are going to be critical to have a differentiated product, because otherwise, finance is finance, economics is economics, accounting is accounting. I think that was the last question. Thank you.